Welcome to Tuesday, April 21st. This is what we're watching for you in the Day Weather Podcast today. Nice days are ahead, but we do have one bump in the road that's going to affect some of you Thursday into Friday. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But it's going to be really nice today and Wednesday. There's going to be a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity in some parts of Colorado and Utah and into western Kansas today and tomorrow. But even with those showers, it's going to be mild, more dry for northern Colorado, Wyoming, and western Nebraska and western South Dakota. Now, we have a Pacific cold front coming late Wednesday night through Friday. This is going to bring heavy snow to the mountains of Colorado and Wyoming. Places like Laramie and the high elevations of Interstate 80 could very well see heavy wet snow falling Thursday night and Friday. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Now, high pressure is going to come back. It's going to return for the weekend and early next week, so we go back to nice spring weather again. This is the precipitation forecast over the next 48 hours. You can see from southern Nevada along the Four Corners area, basically along and south of I-70, we're going to see some shower and thunderstorm activity in this area here over the next couple of days as a weak trough swings through like this, while the central and northern Rockies enjoy some nice, dry, mild weather over the next 2 days. However, by overnight Thursday into Friday, notice this blotch here of green and blue and yellow and orange over the southern parts of Wyoming, the southern mountains of Wyoming and northern Colorado, then in the central mountains of Colorado, then up into Yellowstone Park and the Wind River Mountains and even up into the Bighorns. This is something we see this time of year where you get a Pacific cold front that comes in from the northwest. Now, this is a Pacific front, not a Canadian one like the last two, but it's rich in moisture. And this is a pattern that can really make it snow heavily in the mountains while you get a rain-snow mix on the plains. What it looks like is that most of the moisture on the plains will be in the form of rain, but look at this, when we convert it to snow, this means Laramie, the I-80 corridor from Cheyenne to Rawlins, ooh boy, Thursday night, Friday, watch out. There could be some heavy wet spring snow falling. This is in particular the Laramie area, the Shirley Basin of Wyoming up through Garrett, back into Medicine Bow to near Rawlins. You can see this is classic. We've seen this many, many times where this area is impacted by some heavier precipitation. Now we expect also the Wind Rivers, some parts of the Jackson area, the Tetons to get into the act, and the mountains of northern and central Colorado getting into the act as well. This is the type of snow you get in the spring that really boosts the snowpack. We've seen snowpacks go up, not only due to the storm last week and the storm before that, but just the fact that the snow depths for this late in April are getting well above average, and this is just going to add to it. This is where we are right now with the jet stream. A Pacific flow is coming in. We have this little dip right here. This is this weak low that's going to cause the rain in southern Colorado, but it keeps it mild up here with the Pacific air coming on in. Now, by Thursday night, Friday, this doesn't look like much, does it? But the wind flow aloft comes in from the northwest, bringing Pacific energy and moisture, and embedded here is Pacific energy and moisture. That's what's going to bring the mountains and the higher elevations of southeastern Wyoming some rain and snow late Thursday into early Friday. However, by Sunday, that's gone. We've got a strong low going through the Great Lakes. They could end up with a very late season snow event here in the Great Lakes in New England and along some parts of the East Coast this weekend. That could make some headlines, but notice we have a westerly flow into the western United States. The Gulf of Alaska has low pressure. That means warmer weather here returns by the weekend. By late next week, we've got a big ridge of high pressure. The bad weather is in the east for a change, while we have high pressure and warmer weather as we leave April and head into early May. Here's an update on the solar activity. We continue to have a solar minimum well in place. We've now gone 16 days without a sunspot. That's 86 days for the year so far. Now, in earlier podcasts, we talked about how the solar folks were talking about April and May is when we would start to see an uptick in sunspot activity as the solar minimum should be bottoming out. But we've now gone deeper into April than I think a lot of folks thought. So the solar minimum is indeed one. It's bottoming out. It continues to bottom out. And we're still looking at this year really interesting. If you notice that when we've gone through solar minimums before, when we bottomed out, notice that 86 days of bottoming out at the solar minimum is really quite impressive, as we have gone 77% of the days so far in 2020 with no sunspots. We'll probably see that change later this month into early May, and we'll keep you informed. Now, it's important we show you this because these solar minimums do likely have a big impact on the global ocean basins, making them gradually cooler. This is where sea surface temperatures are right now across the globe. Across the globe, sea surface temperatures relative to normal are still pretty warm. And the Pacific, relative to average, most of the Pacific basin you can see is in the color of orange. It's warm relative to normal. That's why the spring and early summer is still likely to bring us ample opportunities for getting wet. But the ocean basins are colder than they were 3 or 4 months ago. This has really cooled off up here. The Gulf of Alaska is cooling as well. It started to cool off. There's this warm patch here, but it's going to shrink. The long-range temperature forecast for sea surface temperatures look like this. As we get into October, November, December, we're in a weak to moderate La Nina. So the ocean basins, the Pacific Basin in particular, continues to show a trend towards cooling, which will have long-term climate effects fall, winter, spring, 2020 into 2021. So we'll keep watching this for you as the months go on. Usually it's hard to really put a lot of faith in a sea surface temperature forecast in the spring. We're in what's called the spring barrier, where the changeover to seasons makes it hard to really have a good confidence level on sea surface temperature forecast, but the solar minimum is going to be making more and more of an impact going forward with sea surface temperatures. So what we're getting at is late 2020 into 2021 is likely going to bring a different set of weather circumstances to the western United States as compared to the last 3 to 5 years. Thanks for listening and watching the Day Weather Podcast. We'll update you on Wednesday. In the meantime, this is a great opportunity to get some sunshine and fresh air.